What's going on, everybody? It's Frito here for your Overwatch, and today we're going to be tackling a big topic. We were scrolling down the Overwatch forums and stumbled across an anomaly, the conversation that won't go away. So obviously a lot of people are still concerned about this. Most forum posts might get a few replies or a few hundred replies. The lack of developer feedback on Diva concerns has 3,000 replies on it, still raging on. And it was a post created back in March. Now, part of this, I am a little bit concerned that users are getting sucked into a comment war black hole. Don't go in! You'll get frozen in time, commenting forever. Yeah, don't fall into one of those traps, guys. Life is not long enough to argue on the internet forever. But I did want to come out and make a video about Diva, because behind the scenes, we're actually compiling a Diva guide. Now, the issue with this is me and Liam both play over 3/4 of the heroes in the game, and making guides out of that just takes time. We need to be able to play the game more and find the situations where each hero works in order to get enough footage to make a guide out of. But for this video, instead of just strictly a guide, I wanted to talk about Diva's balancing and also a little bit of philosophy and how to approach games and how to not get yourself stuck in a rut, assuming something that might not be very correct. And I say that because Diva's one of the most picked tanks at the pro level of play right now. Gets picked constantly. So the idea that she's unplayable or something, how can that be the case? It's sort of like when everyone said Lucio was bad, but picked 100% of the time at the pro level of play. These two things cannot wash. Somebody is missing something. Now, of course, the two styles of play, as everyone likes to remind me, are incredibly different. But I think it's important for YouTubers like ourselves to be able to bridge the gap in that conversation so that we can find what exactly is the issue and why there's these two very divergent opinions on Diva. Well, first and foremost, I think we're gonna have to go back into the past to a meta of old, one that frankly, I don't even want to think about again because it gives me nightmares, but I'm gonna call it the facetank meta, where not only was Diva superpowered and had a mech that was difficult to break through with many of the damage characters, Ana at the same time had incredibly strong amp healing. So the playstyle that this enabled, which is something that the developers have commented on way in the past, was to allow Diva to sustain in a fight almost indefinitely. Now they have said that they might in the future try to create a character that is able to do such a playstyle, but Diva herself is not that, and I want to explain why, and instead how you might want to go about approaching the character so you don't assume she's really bad now, because she's not really bad now. She's incredibly good. She does so much. And if I only had the chance to be able to play her more, I might have enough footage to be able to make a guide out of it, maybe in like a week or so. Depends on how much I'm able to play the character. But one problem that I have is that a good point that I want to make is that she's insane against Pharah, who's a character that most people think is unbeatable. And while compiling footage, if I'm dealing with a troublesome Pharah and it won't work for me able to swap to Widowmaker, I do swap to Diva oftentimes to neutralize the Pharah. And what happens is, time and time again, it's happened like a handful of times already, the Pharah swaps. So I don't get a lot of footage of being able to battle a Pharah to be able to make videos of explaining why Diva is so good. So anyway, earlier I said that that meta was the face tank meta. Now that's a bit of a joke, and I hope you Diva players won't be too mad at me for using the jokey term, but what we mean when we say face tank, if you just stand out in the open and expect to be able to get out healed to undo all the damage that's coming in on you, that's face tanking. Instead of tactically deciding when you're supposed to be where and utilize your abilities in the team fight strategically so you don't die instantly and you don't need pocket healing the entire time, you're likely going to get melted, because think about it. Reinhardt's shield has a 2,000 hit point barrier. 2,000! That's like 4 Diva mechs. And think how fast that gets shredded. Now, although Diva's smaller than Reinhardt's shield, it's easier to hit. Diva's not much harder to hit than a Reinhardt shield. Just this big blob of a hitbox that everyone can pelt damage into. There was an era where healing was so good that you couldn't get punished for standing out in the open and face tanking almost indefinitely. And I think a lot of players got accustomed to be able to do that, but unfortunately, that isn't playing Diva well. That's existing as a tank in the front line that can't die. Instead, if we go over to how the pros are playing Diva right now, as one of the most picked tanks in the entire game, it is situational. It's duelist in nature. I oftentimes use some of these terms to define two different types of playstyles. A main DPS, for instance, is a character that stands at the heart of the battle and is pelting out damage constantly. A duelist, on the other hand, might not be getting the gold damage medal, but instead lurking around, waiting for a fight, taking it, winning it convincingly, and then snowballing from there, almost like a pick-off playstyle. Different characters are good at doing different things. Now, in the tank category, there's the same type of concept where Reinhardt has a big barrier that can do the main tanking job. Remember, we said this a long time ago when we said Roadhog is not a tank, because the only thing you need from tanks, really, is shielding. When you're trying to build your team comp, you're thinking about what's important to have in it. You're going to want to include some type of shielding to be able to set up an initiation of contact so that you don't just die instantly. How many times have you been playing the game and you don't have a shield, and you walk out of spawn and you just get bopped in the head right away? Well, that's because you're lacking that main tank presence. It can be done with Winston, though it's much more difficult to do, but most people are going to need the Reinhardt barrier in order to do that. Now, if you got used to being able to play D.Va in a way where she got to be the main tank because her mech was so strong, you might be trying to approach her in the main tank playstyle, thinking that you can just stand in front forever, fighting the tanks, brawling out just in the open without getting punished. But now you can't do that. Instead, you're going to need to be developing a more duelist approach to D.Va. And once you open up that part of your mind to be able to approach the character that way, you can start to see all the value she has. Now, here's a bit of the kicker. And this is always a problem whenever we compare pro play to the matchmaking server, and that, of course, is teamwork. D.Va's kit is the absolute best at shutting down a DPS source. It can take infinite damage for a few seconds, incredibly annoying to have to deal with if you're a Pharah, Bastion, whomever, Soldier. Put Defense Matrix in the face of that character, they cannot do their job. Reinhardt's barrier is better at being able to set up the initiation for the entire team fight, allowing you a window in order to access the fight. D.Va can point that Defense Matrix at a certain target to be able to neutralize their existence and buy time to shield for your DPS to do their job. Aha, and that's the key. Because D.Va is a character that is basically supportive in nature, that sets up for her fellow teammate to be able to do something, that's why I think a lot of matchmaking players find that she isn't good. Because either one, they don't realize the value that they're providing for their teammates when they are in fact doing it correctly. Because if you yourself aren't getting the kills on the board, or if you don't feel like you're the one shooting often, you may not realize that if you stop the Soldier from getting rocketed from Pharah and he's able to calmly, casually hit his hit scan shots and shoot her out of the air, you're making a massive play in protecting that Soldier in a way where a Reinhardt can just get booped out of the way. You might want to send Reinhardt to protect your Soldier when he duels Pharah too, but she has the concussion blast to get him miles out of the way and then hone in on her damage hitting the Soldier, whereas a D.Va can play more dynamically and chase down those threats, being able to fly every 5 seconds and get that defense matrix where it needs to be. That's the key, everybody. If we can think of other DPS characters to have a more duelist playstyle, you can think of D.Va in her off-tank nature to be duelist in her tanking. You should be looking for key opportunities to pop that defense matrix into effect to essentially mean that your DPS has a massive advantage in that fight. And that's the difference between the pro style of play and the matchmaking style of play, because the pros know that inherently. They know that it's their job to set up their teammate to be able to succeed, because that's what Overwatch is all about. I think a big problem in the misconception of thinking D.Va isn't good enough is that players think that her durability and her blaster damage is where her value is, and it isn't. It's in crucial usage of Defense Matrix, which is one of the most powerful abilities in the entire game. Getting that where you need it is the key to mastering D.Va and really making her a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield. Now, of course, D.Va can do some fun harass stuff. She can get in the face and blast some things. She can do some damage. She's very good at doing that as well. But really, Winston is better in that diving harass playstyle because he can run when he shoots. His aim locks on, so things can't run away from him as easily. And his movement is just a bit stronger. D.Va's a bit more slow and sluggish, meaning that she's better in the Enforcer duelist playstyle than either the pure face tank on the front line playstyle or the harasser playstyle that you might employ with like a Winston. Because you gotta remember too, D.Va's value is always localized to wherever her character is placed. So if you're standing in the wrong spot as D.Va, you can't defense matrix, right? One very key skill that you can have as a DPS player nowadays is waiting for the D.Va to fly in the wrong direction and then pop soldier sights behind them in a spot where she can't get to now. If D.Va players tunnel vision in on trying to get themselves engaged instead of realizing that it's their job to protect their team, then you're going to start to feel like she is unwieldy on the battlefield. As opposed to Winston, who could pop his bubble in an opportune spot and still jump out of it. Now, a lot of times you do want to utilize your bubble as Winston yourself, but at least he has the option to put his shielding in place to help his team and do something else himself. D.Va doesn't have that luxury. She always needs to be able to have defense matrix in range to get value out of it. So positioning is key. And really, we can apply this logic to any character in the game, really. I don't advise that you look at characters in Overwatch with a closed door approach. A couple of videos ago, we made discussions about characters that are going to be really good in the upcoming meta. Hanzo came up. I said that Hanzo's scatter arrow, very soon, when you see him picked more and people start getting good at Hanzo, can be just as annoying and lethal and free kill-ish as a Roadhog hook. I saw some comments saying that, well, there's no way you can get that kind of value out of scatter arrow. It's too random. To be honest, I think if you have that kind of opinion, it's similar to this situation where really you just maybe haven't learned yet from players that are really good at the game. I had to learn this as well. I thought the same thing for a while. Wow, I can't get any value out of scatter arrow. But after watching pro players play long enough, I was able to develop an understanding of how they utilize the character, right? That's the important thing to learning, and it's something that even us as YouTubers have to do, of course, is that you have to be able to humble your own skill set to players better than you and adapt what they're able to do given the same resources. It doesn't help to try to have a closed concept of what a hero is supposed to be and then try to force that playstyle in when it's not working and then say that the game needs to be changed so that your strategy should be applicable. Well, no, instead, we have to look to see what everyone else is able to accomplish, and if they're able to have success with a character like D.Va, as the pros are, and we're struggling with her in our own games, there has to be some bridge between that gap, and hopefully I explained that in today's video. What do you guys think? I'm sure many of you are going to have lots of opinions to be giving us in the comment section down below, so have at it. Should D.Va have 1,000 hit points? Should she be able to repair her mech just like Bastion does? When her mech gets destroyed, should she be able to recall one instantly? The Korean economy is probably doing pretty good. I'm sure D.Va can afford it. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe because we upload each and every day. So you're going to want to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Linked in the description is all sorts of fun stuff, including our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, cool clips, and give opinions about the game, and possibly doing a giveaway quite shortly. More on that soon. But if you want to get ahead of the curve, pop our Twitter or follow so you can get updated on when that stuff's going down. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.